My name is Andrew Nelson.
And this is The Narrative. And here we are live, and we want to, I want to say thank you to all of our supporters. I want to say thank you to all those who listen. And by that, what we need y'all guys to do is reshare this. We need you to like. We need you to like the page. We need you to share it with your folks. And we need y'all to continue to show the support and love that you've been doing, man. Because that's the only way the show can grow. That's the only way we can continue to do what we do. And we want to grow numbers, man. And we thank you guys for the growing love and support so far.
And we're gonna be more consistent.
Absolutely, man.
And step one in this, we going live.
That's right.
That's a new change.
Yeah, man. So we're gonna make sure that we give you guys news coverage and our perspective on a consistent basis, man.
Right.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah,
so we can change the narrative in real time.
Yeah, so we can change our narratives, right?
Right.
So what you want to talk about today, bro?
Man, there's so much going on in the world, man. I think we need to talk about what's going on in the sports world. We need to talk about what's going on in politics. We need to talk about what's going on in finances. Sure. And then we need to talk about what's going on locally here in the region and in the local city as well.
All right. Yeah, you're right.
Because it's so much.
It is a lot going on. So let's start off something light. Not really light, but something light. One thing that what happened over the last 2 weeks was the NCAA March Madness Championship.
Right.
And there was a lot of pushback of old girl from LSU,
right,
for doing the same thing that old girl from Iowa did.
Right, to a T. Right. So it could be argued that sis mimicked what old girl from Iowa did.
Yeah, exactly. And you see pushback on Twitter calling her classless, calling her
a thug,
POS, you know what I mean, like. And a thug, right? Right.
So they called her a thug. Said bad sportsmanship.
Exactly. So why is it when it comes down to black athletes, we held to a certain or a different standard when it comes down to celebration, being gracious winners? What is it that why does the rule you got to be 2 times better, 2 times faster? Now we got to be a better winner,
2 times more above reproach. Yeah. On top of that, right?
Because it really
a more gracious winner.
It's frustrating, man. Because if you mimic the same thing or you doing the same thing as your like on the field, honestly, as an athlete,
right?
I don't look at that's a white player or a black player. Like honestly,
right? You just see an athlete
definitely on your team. Like we balling,
right?
So. I don't. It doesn't. The race card don't come up when you put the helmet on, or when you playing basketball, or when you playing baseball, whatever the case may be.
At least it shouldn't come up.
Well, at least it shouldn't.
Right. But it kind of got to come up now because the media is making it come up, right?
And there's always the media. There's always the outsiders take the narrative, right?
Always.
But the biggest problem I had with that is Jill Biden inviting them to the White House.
Right. Because when has that ever happened?
Losers don't go to the White House.
Ever.
Bro. Like, when did second place ever go to the White House?
Right.
And I'll do the same thing as they did. And I'll have to abstain, man. I'm not sharing my platform as a champion, a national champion, with losers. I don't care who it is. You know, and my strategic mind says this. All right, we got a 2024 election coming up. What state normally have one of the early votings?
Iowa. It's the first one, the first primary.
Did you see that?
It's for sure.
I don't know. People peep that.
Right. And
we gonna invite Iowa in to the White House because we just want to celebrate everybody.
Right. Because Iowa sets the trend, right?
Iowa sets the trend on 2024 presidential elections.
On all presidential elections.
So let's get them in. Let's go ahead and get the young girl in and show us that we care and get the Iowans all on board.
Or maybe they knew they wouldn't show up, but let's take the opportunity to capitalize on the situation and show our unwavering support for Iowa.
Yeah.
In spite of the outcome.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't think they had to have known. Like, who's going to do that? They had to have known that was going to cause tension.
They had to, but I think Joe said, "Go ahead, Joe, do that so that we can go ahead and get some good gracious with the good folks of Iowa."
Right, and if it goes wrong, Jill did it.
Jill did it. I ain't do it.
Right,
I ain't do it. I ain't do it. It was Jill.
Right.
Yeah. And but I seen that, and I started putting 2 and 2 together. Like, Oh, okay. This is how y'all moving. Okay, all right. I get it. Yeah.
Right. While simultaneously running ads that spoke about the same thing when Sis did it from Iowa. She's competitive.
She's competitive.
Right.
Look at the swag on her.
Yeah.
It's still if it's unsportsman on one side, it's unsportsmanlike on the other side. But I don't. Listen, we out here, we equal. Right. I don't care who, what, where, and
as
how,
it should
bro.
be.
Like if you going, what LeBron did yesterday, this John when they won and did it in the face of their competition. Look, if you gonna do it to me, I'm gonna do it to you. I don't care who you are.
And listen, all the ball players on my timeline. Like I saw them comment on it, several of them, and they all said like, "Yo, talking junk is part of the game."
Yo, that's it.
And and ain't it? Because I know, like, so I ain't never played organized ball, but every sport I played in the Marine Corps, anytime I was at the range, like I was talking heavy.
That's right.
Right? It's all in the game.
That's right.
Right? That comes with competition.
That's how it goes, man.
Yeah.
I remember being on, every time I come out, I played offensive line, so I was the center. So you break the huddle, I come out and be like, easy money.
Right.
I'm talking trash. Easy money. Look, he's small.
Right.
So that's what we do.
Right. It's competitive.
And shout out to the young woman from LSU for trying to be as classy as she could be with all the back talk, with all the name calling, and just keep on winning, keep on doing what you do, and keep being a superstar.
Right. Shout out to her bringing the win home.
That's right, man.
Right.
For real.
So I remember hearing first time in Louisiana history. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did they ever won this?
I think so. Right. For LSU, yeah.
Yeah, for LSU. So I feel like that's big.
That's humongous, man.
Yeah.
That's humongous. And talking about first and we're gonna switch it over.
All right.
What you think about what happened out there in Tennessee, man?
Oh man, how about it first? All right, so I've been thinking about this a lot, right? So you know how like in Congress, right? Well, they'll pass an impossible law that they know that's gonna get rejected, just to make the statement like, see if we had control, these are the kind of things we can get done, right? And then you know how like in other ways, like you see in politics where they'll do things where they'll test the waters, right, to see what we can get away with. I feel like it was a little bit of both of them going on, right? So I'm thinking that they're trying to figure out what their boundaries are, because now that the federal, so taking it back, because everything come back to an overarching plan in my mind anyway, right? So now that you got this ultra conservative Supreme Court bench, right? All of these issues that have been in the tuck, kind of like in the pocket, that I'm gonna say since the passing of the civil rights legislation, right? They all kind of like went in the tuck and kind of like got put away. And a lot of states made like these laws where if the federal law ever went away, then it would trigger a response to automatically have another law come in. Okay. So now I'm wondering if, as a result of this new conservative bench, where they know like now it's like, all right, we got a chance that some of these ultra conservative policies can get passed through. I'm wondering if they're trying to set some kind of precedent in state law to say where we could start removing legislators for A, B, C, and D, right? And I think what this did was kind of like establish a boundary. And it just kind of makes me wonder, like, all right, if you're trying to establish a boundary, what are you really trying to accomplish here? Because that's dangerous, bro. Like, that's dangerous. When you out here removing a legislator because of how they voted.
And it's quick, and it's funny how quickly and swiftly they moved to do this.
Right. But it was ceremonious. And that was why the beginning thing where I was like, how Congress would do something, because they knew it wasn't going to fly. They knew it wouldn't stick.
They knew it.
So it was very ceremonial, right? But what's the goal, though?
And what is the goal? And then it's also, it kind of really capstone something. Like, it encapsulate, like, wow, you guys had 3 state reps do the same thing. You expelled 2 of them.
Right.
Who happen to be of color.
Correct. And the one who they didn't expel, they said that they got missed by a very thin majority, something like 11 votes or something like that. But they made sure that she wasn't removed.
Yeah, so honestly, it doesn't matter if you win by 1.
Right. You won.
Or you win by 100.
Right. Agreed.
So for them to even try to put that out there, it doesn't matter. She didn't get voted out.
Right.
So you can't tell me that these things wasn't racially motivated.
For sure.
and it's a sad
And it's Tennessee.
situation that and then you can't tell me now that racism is not there or we've moved past it. It's clearly obvious. Like,
Racism's still alive. They just be concealing it.
You know, and
they told
actually
us.
and this was a blatant act and move of showing them their true colors.
Right. But more importantly, I'm wondering if this was a blatant act and move to trigger responses from other states to see what they can get away with, right? Will the federal government step in? And if the answer is no, well, we going to try to shoot past our boundary a little higher next time.
It always takes one state to start it off, right?
And if the federal government don't step in, which I don't know that it will, right? Then what? Right? What kind of precedents get set for state powers?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good question.
And what does that look like for being black in America on a large scale?
It doesn't look good.
Right.
You know, honestly, I mean, even as an elected state member, elected legislator or an assemblyman,
right,
you're still subjected to the whim of racism.
Let's call it the majority population.
Oof.
And it might not even be the majority by numbers as much as it is majority by control.
Majority by control.
Right.
Majority by who's in place. Majority by who's in power.
Right.
Because the numbers are different. The numbers are not as what we grew up on them on. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they're still those numbers in power, and we have to figure out how we can, I don't know, work with the ones who's allies,
right,
and identify the ones who aren't.
Right. So I've been reading this book. It's called The Devil We Know. Or Devil You Know, or something like that. It's by a gentleman that's either like Christopher or Charles. Let me not guess. Hold on, let me pull it up right now, right? So we can make sure that we got all of it right.
I've heard of that John before too.
I think his last name is Blow. Let me see. Yep, by Charles M. Blow.
Okay.
And this gentleman is unique in his approach of analyzing our current situation. He asserts that he thinks that we need to do a reverse migration. And he maps out the Great Migration in the early 1900s. We did? Yeah. So I think that that's the answer, man. Like I see where you're saying with trying to work with allies, but working with allies is not going to concentrate our state control in any kind of way. It still leaves us in the same position overall as a people, right? Having to build some kind of like alliances within the state legislature just to maintain the equality that we were born with.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? And being at those whims, it just doesn't make sense. It don't make sense.
I agree, man. And we're at a point where we keep repeating the same thing, bang our head against the wall, thinking there's going to be a different result.
Right. It's almost insane.
And it is becoming insane, man. Yeah. And it kind of leaves you at a loss of words because it's like how blatant it is, and then how we have to sit and figure out and strategize on how to counteract it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And
well, I think having the conversations for one,
okay,
right, and then we just need to, like we say this in almost every show. It's time for Black America to mature politically.
We have to mature,
and until we do that, and actually start. Well, hell, but before we could even mature politically, we need to mature economically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you can't buy the politics until you got some kind of economics to undergird
economically, because guess what, bro? We talk it all the time. I can't run for office if I can't get the support financially from my people.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So if you can't host a fundraiser, how can you gonna put me in office?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we got to figure out how do we.
And the economics undergird the politics.
That's right.
Right. That's the way it works.
That's right.
Right.
That's
the ground floor.
It's
the economics.
That's economics, and as you see, economics is now becoming at forefront because there's been some things in the news where there's a devaluing of the U.S. dollar.
Yeah, man, the BRICS.
Yeah, man.
So that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South America.
Wow.
As you were. South Africa. South
Africa. Wow. Joining together
to trade in their own independent. And mind you, these are the largest producing nations in the world outside of the United States.
That's right.
Right? They're talking about settling their trades outside of the US dollar.
Wow.
The U.S. dollar, a fiat currency.
Wow.
I mean, it don't have any intrinsic value outside of the backing of the government and the fact that trades are settled in it. So we got like a lot of economic leverage on the world stage. But what happens when that economic leverage goes away?
That's what I was about to ask you, bro.
Right.
Like, what happens when the U.S. dollar is valueless?
Well, so and this is where, so I'm gonna tell you this, right? One thing I think helps us, right? The only thing that I think helps us is our military strength.
Facts.
Right?
Okay.
Because when at the end of the day, right, when it's all said and done and the smoke clears, if you can't beat the bully, then you can't beat the bully.
Okay, because we can throw them hands. We can still do some things.
So I'm wondering.
Right.
So look, and this is just me analyzing, right? I'm no financial guru here, but analyzing that. So this is going to help us. The financial power.
Okay.
America has never been a stranger to taking.
No.
Right.
No.
So somewhere these economics got to balance, right? Some way, somehow these economics got to balance.
Okay.
China and Russia, who I think China in general is interested in China, which makes perfect sense. And Russia has been recently harmed by United States economic policy as a result of the Ukraine war.
Okay.
So is Iran, right?
Right, that's right.
And China sees an opportunity wanting to move into the open forefront as the world power, right? I think they saw this opportunity and they was like, all right, Russia, you harmed, right? Go ahead and trade your stuff in the yuan, right? And if you could get other people on board to join, now these are two countries out of the BRICS, China and Russia, they're both in there, right? Get India on board, get Iran on board, because Iran has been harmed by America's foreign economic policy, right? All of these people who was like, listen, the U.S. has sanctioned me and messed us up in some kind of way, shape, or form, right? They're taking the approach, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
And if they all collectively get together, which they're already doing right now, and start trading outside of the U.S. dollar, the U.S. dollar going to take a huge hit as far as valuation.
Decapitation.
Right? So we talking about hyperinflation. We talking about loss of jobs, loss of.
You think that's going to happen?
Absolutely. So when hyperinflation occurs.
So what happens to the hood?
Right. What happens to the hood?
What happens to the hood?
So I think the hood going to be okay for a couple reasons, right? Because the sad reality of the hood is the hood don't own much. So because the hood don't own much, it's not a lot to be lost, right? Another thing is the hood been suffering through every economic downturn in America and has always had a boot on its neck. So the economics has never risen to a point to where loss is even assumed. So what will happen to the hood?
Survival.
Right. I think the hood will continue to survive as it did.
Wow.
Now there's another part of me that believe that through the hood, the leadership is going to emerge that's going to change this country, but that's another story for another topic for another time. Right.
Okay.
But I do believe that from that, the solution of America is going to go coming forward. Right.
Wow.
Because the hood has been always a hostage, if you will, inside of this capitalistic nation.
It's really eye opening,
right,
for everyone really to see exactly what's going to happen. Where the dollar is really is not going to be worth anything,
right?
And you can see things are starting to switch over from physical dollars to cryptocurrency,
and in metals and things like that.
Exactly,
stuff that holds value.
Because your physical dollars in which you have underneath the bed that grandma always tell us to do, have some money under the bed. I don't know if that's going to still be worth its weight when call them greenbacks. Yeah, when the inevitable crash happens, right? Because it's happening, right? Right. And you can see the U.S. doing what they need to do and to try to mitigate that by going into, what is it called, Fed Now or something like that? Their Cash App,
right? Yeah, the federal Cash App, federal cryptocurrency.
Am I supposed to trust that?
Man,
I can't trust that, bro, because.
So trust undergirds the whole economic system, right? Why you trust the greenback?
I mean,
because you was taught, right?
We was taught that, and it was set aside as something that supposed to have some type of value and currency, so even exchange, right? So
this is what we know: the greenback has no value in of itself. You can't take that greenback and say, "Let me trade this in for whatever value it is for gold," because it has none. It's a paper, and it's written on it. See if I got some greenbacks in my pocket so I can read it. This note is a legal tender for all debts, public and private, and it's supposed to say backed by the. No, it don't even say that. So Federal Reserve note. So that's the closest thing to backing by the federal government, right? That we're gonna get. But that's essentially what it is. It's saying like, listen, this is a safe way to transact value.
Okay.
And the federal government says, you got my word on it, stamp it. And because we trust the federal government and we believe in its power, then we're comfortable with the currency.
But they know that their word is no longer bond. Like that is not, there's no bond on that.
I agree.
Because you see where they're going with it.
Right.
Now all of a sudden we got to do Fed now cash. So what's gonna happen to my Cash App, bro?
Right. That's a good question.
Now that all of a sudden, mysteriously, all of a sudden, how you the owner of Cash App, man? I mean, you got to be a multi-billionaire at this moment.
Wait, so were we talking about the dead owner of Cash App?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, all right.
So how you a multi-billionaire?
Yeah.
And you just that vulnerable to get stabbed up?
Right.
On the street?
Right. It's things make you say,
Come on, son.
And then right after you get stabbed up,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then what happens? The federal government releases Fed Now.
Are you serious?
So,
Are we? Do they believe that we are that naive not to see that?
Yeah, for sure they believe.
Right in your face. Right. Like, yo, what you gonna do about it?
Right.
Wow. Because they can throw them hands because we got the military government, we got the CIA, we got the FBI,
and we got the news media. Right. Because they all working together.
Yeah.
At this point, it's really hard to believe any of it separate, right? Because look how much stuff is picking and chose as to what's played in the media cycle.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? You could barely find anything, right? A blip about his murder, a blip about all of these different devaluing actions that's taken across the world, right? It's not getting much coverage at all, but you know they was flooding the airwaves with that LSU.
Exactly.
Right?
To keep
flooding the airwaves with that.
To keep us occupied, to keep us distracted.
Right. So you said you can't believe that they think we're that stupid. No, they absolutely
do. Know
they're banking on it.
They know the masses are easily influenced, bro.
So that's propaganda, man.
Yeah. So the narrative that we paint, or the narrative that we provide to those who listen to us is what though now? Like, because how do we protect ourselves?
Right. How you protect your assets?
Now we are all susceptible to. We're vulnerable. We're vulnerable right now, right?
Right. I would say pay attention to what people with money are doing.
Yeah.
People with money are buying precious metals again. They're reinvesting in gold. I'm still on the same side that land holds value. Right? Okay. Bill Gates is one of the largest landowners in the country. Yeah. Some people said it was because of the water. Some people said it was because of the farming. Some people think it's economics. I think it's all of them. Yeah. But I think economics undergirds it. Yeah. I think he's protecting his money long term.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because the land ain't gonna lose much value.
Oh yeah.
Right? The property value might fluctuate in neighborhoods that are subject to things like crime and stuff like that. But he bought land. And that's the key thing. Land. They're not making more of it.
No.
Right? So you can know that that it's a set closed value on that land and it won't drop as long as there's no new land that comes into existence. So buy land. Buy precious metals, protect your cash assets, leave very, very, very little value in cash. Right?
So do we empty our bank accounts out?
No, I mean, so that creates runs on banks.
Current cryptocurrency, but now you can't.
You got to find out. So managing your risk is going to be based on you. There ain't no blanket statement. The blanket statement that I can make is shift to more concrete valued items, right? If you maintain in cash, tangible things that could be exchanged in spite of what's going on. That's right? Precious metal is going to hold value in spite of what's going on in the world. Whether we got a digital currency, whether we got a paper currency, or whether the economy is ass, metal is still going to hold value.
Metals,
right? Land is still going to hold value. I've been realizing, now I don't know if it's a lot of truth or not, if it's coming to market fruition, but with all of this stuff with water, right? And the water shortages, maybe that might prove to be a fruitful investment in a way to protect your money.
Could be.
I am not a Series 7 or Series 6 certified financial advisor.
Neither am I.
So I don't want to misrepresent at all.
I tried that life, man, and I didn't. I was at Vanguard for like 6 months, man. I couldn't pass the test.
And I ain't gonna go. So
Yeah, so
But I like
we're
to
not
think.
professionals on that one,
Right.
man. We just two brothers trying to
Right.
provide the information and tell you guys what we hearing and what's out there, so you can listen and pay attention to it because
Right.
it's real. And then a lot of times, unfortunately, we're the last to know, and we're always not being proactive. We're being reactive.
Right.
And about time that comes down, downhill and downstream to us, we it's already too late.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then looking at it from a microeconomics, right? As inflation incurs, the more money has less value, right? So what are you as your household or your firm or your entity, right? Your individual household, what are y'all producing?
Man.
And if you're not producing a good or a service, you need to be asking yourself, how can I be producing a good or a service? And then you might say to yourself, well, what kind of goods or what kind of services? Goods or services that will transcend or will still be in value
that everyone needs
to everyone,
it's vital to
no matter what the
lifeline.
economy is doing.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So maybe invest in a funeral home, right? Because people gonna die no matter how bad the economy is. Matter of fact, if the
always die,
economy
man.
is worse,
Yeah,
more people are
gonna
likely
die.
to die.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So start thinking in terms of how I could protect my assets in that manner. If you don't have assets, get some.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Get some assets, because
much as
going
possible.
forward, we might have to barter and trade, right?
Yeah.
If you got some land, maybe you might need to rent out some of your land to be farmed.
Yeah,
You got a big house, maybe you might need to rent a room out,
rent
right?
a couple rooms.
We might need to
out.
go back to the times of the late 70s and the early 80s when they had rooming houses
That's facts.
in high demand, right?
That's facts.
Because rent was too high or mortgages was too high.
That's facts.
The hood gonna get creative. One thing I know about that, man, I never lived it, but remember learning about rent parties,
I heard about them Jones,
right?
man. Yeah.
So
yeah.
so we gonna do what we need to do,
Our,
right?
like you said, our
So what I would say the other thing
survival,
is go
man.
back into them books, man.
Yep.
Learn your history because it repeats itself.
It does.
Man, I always swayed towards like sciences and math my whole life, and I kind of like gaffed off history.
Got to.
And now in my older years, I'm realizing I'm like, man, look, for my younger years, I had no clue on what to do, and I would say like no doubt about it. Any bit of education or wisdom that I've gotten, it's been from looking at the past and how things was handled in the past, and then putting it in the scope today.
Yep, it's
right?
and that's why we got to continue to be vigilant and thinking about what they're doing with this whole and this is a kind of off topic, but it kind of is with this the critical race theory and how they're trying to erase a lot of the history being taught. Because that's pivotal. You just said it,
because you can perpetuate it.
How to the things you learn how to either handle or prevent is taught by what was already done in history.
Right.
So now they're erasing that and erasing or stopping the opportunity for our children to understand what happened in the past,
right?
So that they can repeat it in the future.
So we got censorship, right? We got fear mongering, right? We got manipulation and control.
That's right. Race baiting,
yeah, right? All the divided masses.
Yeah.
We got all of the makings of a struggling third world country. Are we allowed to say that? Developing nation?
We're on it. We are. If it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck.
Yeah. Bribery, right? We got a former U.S. president indicted on criminal charges.
Word. What you think about that, bro?
What do I think about it? I think that
because that was something I wanted to touch on. Because
I'm glad we talking about it. I think Trump is too big to fail. Right, and not because he's Trump, not because he's Trump, but because he's a former president. Yeah. And I think let them suffer on the world stage of indicting and criminalizing one of your past leaders, which means that you have literally hit the world stage rock bottom. Let them doing something like that. I think that Trump will never see a day in jail.
Oh, he's not going to jail.
Right. So that's what I think about it. I think, but only because he's too big to fail, not because he doesn't necessarily deserve to go to jail.
Because what he represents.
Right? He's a former U.S. sitting president.
To fail.
Right. And then furthermore, I think that the public outrage, because he got a huge following. Right. It's a lot of Trumpers.
Big time.
That's the reality of it.
Big time.
And it's a lot of Trumpers with a lot of economic value undergirding his politics.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So reason number 2 that he's too big to fail.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. And the recourse and the ramifications of him getting locked up could spark something that we're not prepared for. And I'm not saying we're as a people. I'm talking we as a nation,
right?
Because we've been flirting around, it's been bubbling, but we don't need that.
Right.
We don't need that to happen. We got to figure out how to collectively move forward without sparking some type of internal civil war. Or
I agree
like that, man. And
because the union, all of the power of our country comes from the unity, right?
Exactly.
That shit was called the Union for a reason.
Exactly.
Right. The founding fathers understood thoroughly that if we were a nation of states, right, that we would eventually tear apart, become segregated, factioned, and our power on the world stage would be weakened. And the very thing that I read in the Federalist Papers that they were afraid of is happening right now today. Right? We lost our world trade power.
That's right.
We're losing our world economic power.
Our dollar.
We're internally arguing on all kind of things. We got a stalemate, lame duck all across the board. Congress, both House and Senate, can't get any issues passed.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. So we weak out here.
We weak.
We looking like fresh lunch on the yard.
Right. And
man.
So that's what I think about that. I think that instead of them accepting the reality and saying like, let's posture ourselves to what we could do to literally make America great. Right. I think they're worried about maintaining control and saving face, that they're willing to let the whole damn institution fail, less actually accepting that we have a problem and move on the course to fix it.
So you do you let it break to rebuild?
Oh man, so I mean, wise man said, "Got to destroy and rebuild it."
Got to destroy and rebuild.
But so I don't think that we're going to be responsible for doing the destruction. I think that it's going to implode.
But we're going to be responsible for the rebuild,
right? And so now that's bringing it back. Now God just told me because one of my brothers said to me, he said almost, and I quote, he said, "Andrew, the future of the nation is going to come through leadership from us. The world knows. We up. Right. We at that. And I think that the world is, and I agree with him, that the world is going to has become and will continue to be so disenfranchised by this nutty ass concept of white superiority and white supremacy that they're going to be like, look, I ain't got no time to deal with that.
Yeah.
And y'all's manifest destiny. And I think that eventually it will get to the point where the underclass that America has created, the African descendant of slaves, right? I think that the solution will come through that because the world understands and knows the plight that we've lived through over the past 200 years.
That's a fact.
Right? And when moved into a position of power and given the opportunity, I think that the world would be interested in doing business. And I think, and this is what he said, that he believed, my brother believes that that the solution will come through that. And I 100% agree with that. It makes a lot of sense.
And again, I go back to that question. How do we be proactive on that instead of being reactive?
Right.
Because I don't want the infrastructure to fail, or let's just say we destroy the infrastructure without at least having an outline already created.
Right. I agree with that.
And I don't.
Well, we already got the outline. Follow what we're doing right now, just minus the bullshit in control.
Yeah.
Right. The economy, although no intrinsic value, for lack of better words, works. Right. We just need to control our spending.
Yeah.
Right. We need to understand that we can't save the world, and the world is not interested in us saving the world, and we're no longer postured as that power and ability to save the world. So let's divert some of that funding to worry about saving us, and we need to invest in America's infrastructure, right, which is going to create generational jobs. It's going to bring skilled labor back into the forefront.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's true.
Which makes us productive.
I'm about to go sign up for the laborers, man.
Right.
Hey, Jim Harper.
Right.
I'm going to sign up for Local 413 soon, brother, because I need some trade skills, bro.
Right.
So I'm gonna be signing up soon.
But then also that we need to start realizing, like, so we as a people, we need to start getting roles in companies where we're brokering and buying and selling raw materials, because we're gonna need an influx of manufacturing. For real. Right. I mean, I think it's dope to outsource and keep prices low. Yeah. But really what that does is you give away your economic value. We need to manufacture. We have to create. Productivity is what undergirds economies.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? So what could we do to posture ourselves? We need to start putting ourselves in these key roles and these key businesses and understand that there's more to doing business than creating a daycare, creating a restaurant.
Yeah. Selling certain goods that's repetitive.
Or retail, right? It's more than that. It's more to it.
It's more to it than that.
We need to get on the manufacturing end.
That's right.
We need to get more involved on the economics of it.
That's right.
Right?
That's
How many black accountants you know? And not to be confused with Africans, because I do know that there are a whole bunch of African accountants. How many black accountants? Black African descendants of slaves in America?
Man, personally, I know about 7.
You know 7.
I know 7.
And
shout out to my boy Tim.
Now check this out, right? You are what I would consider ultra connected.
Oh yes, yeah.
You have a huge network.
I don't count.
No, you absolutely count, but I think this is gonna help shed light. As connected as you are, as many people as you know, right? As many people as you bumped elbows with, and you can only account for 7 black accountants.
You know what? Now as you reframe it as that is pretty. It's pretty bad.
Right.
It's pretty bad.
Not even double digits.
Not even double digits.
But I bet that any other profession on a large scale,
I can tell you about,
with the majority population, the numbers are winning way above 7.
Yeah, way
right?
above.
So with that being said, we gotta set our goals for ourselves, right? So I feel like that's on a micro level, right? So on a micro level, we need to get more involved in things that matter: manufacturing, managing of the said economics, tech,
definitely tech.
Definitely tech.
Because a lot of these, Andrew Yang was right, bro. The technology thing is coming and is going to replace folks. It's going to replace our jobs. Yeah. So we got to figure out how to get in that space.
My man said it's coming. It's here, bro. Have you done Chat GPT yet?
Yo, dog. I wish that was when I was in school.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to get my doctorate. Just to write that paper right then and there. But so now how do we get what I call the ripple effect of that, right? So what fields do we get into, right? One, we got to learn how to do the programming, right? That's one key spot. We got to learn how to repair it. We got to learn how to. It's all.
I don't think our focus should be on programming itself. No, Chat GPT showed us that, right? Because I could tell Chat GPT create a program in JavaScript or create a program in Python that can do A, B, C, and D. And it's gonna produce it back way faster than any human can ever do.
What's the adjacent?
I'm gonna say network security, right? Because you can't depend on artificial intelligence to be the security, because artificial intelligence is just that. It's artificial.
That's right.
It could be hacked.
It can.
Right. So you need somebody who understands the human element of security and can apply that learned behavior of the human element. So I'm gonna say network security is one of the ways we should start looking into.
Security oversight to it, right?
The other thing, maybe getting involved in something to do with the design process of technology, right? So dare I say engineering, but I'm also cautious to say engineering because I'm pretty sure you could tell AI to create designs.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. But somebody got to implement it.
Somebody got to implement it, but also how do I market that to? How can I make that proprietary? So it's because a lot of people about it, but a lot of people don't necessarily want to take the time to go through it.
Right.
So now I think a lane is how to market. Let's just say that what's it called, Chat GPT. Market it to those folks who may need it or utilizing it for smaller institutions or nonprofits or organizations where you can market this software to scale or fit to that business, because I think that could be something, because I love it, but I don't necessarily have the time.
Right, understood.
And I need somebody that maybe who knows it and understands it and takes the time to dig deep into it, to give me what I need. Yeah. And I think that could be a lane for folks to push and sell that. You know what I mean? And
then just also the tried and true professions. AI ain't gonna be arguing any court cases anytime soon, right? Yeah, so we're gonna still need lawyers,
that's
right? AI ain't gonna be performing any surgeries or diagnostics on humans anytime soon. Now it might be a tool that doctors use.
They're gonna use the robots to do the operations, but you can't. I'm not gonna go to a window of an iPad and tell them what my problem is.
Right.
Like that. Does that person to person, that touch level is still necessary.
Right. Yeah. And the robots are only going to be trusted to do some operations, because I'm pretty sure there's going to, for at least the next generation or two, there's going to be a whole bunch of people that's going to be like, I'm not letting that thing touch me.
And that's us.
Right.
Because think about the next 2 generations, right? So that's our kids.
Right.
And
so us and our kids.
Right. So we're going to be the ones like, nah, dog, I remember we had real doctors. I'm not going to go there. You can do some things, but you're not going to do that.
So I think that's a good way to extract economics right now. Just things like that, man. Stuff that you can't imagine AI doing. Not to be confused with a robot, because we're not there yet, right?
No.
We right now, but we in the world of AI, right? So like some jobs, like if you maybe you might have been a writer, right? I don't know. Like I think AI might replace.
It could,
like something like that. So I wouldn't recommend.
You still need someone to put a little personal touch on it, because see, your experience is your experience. So AI and ChatGPT can't necessarily promote or put to paper your lived experiences.
That's correct. But what AI can do is analyze all of the other data from hundreds and years of information and of writings of the same people and mimic that behavior.
Oh, yeah, that's
right.
True.
And so that's where I'm at with it. Yeah. Where it's like, all right, so I agree, nobody can tell your story, but AI can produce a story pretty damn similar to yours.
It can.
With enough
I think again, a lane around it is trying to figure out how to personalize that and before it adapts itself a little further to what you're saying.
Right.
And then by that time you'll be ahead of the curve to be proactive for when that happens.
Right.
So when we were talking about being proactive and we just discussing about how to create the infrastructure, or at least have an infrastructure in place, because a decimation is coming, right? And speaking of decimations and the destroying and rebuilding, we was talking about something a little bit earlier, and it just came out. What was it? The disincorporation of Chester City or something like that?
Yeah.
So I'm not as versed on it as I should, because I know this is a hot topic, but explain what's going on with that, because we're going to need.
So it's all brand new.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the meeting just happened yesterday. The idea just got floated yesterday. It's hot off the presses. So the little bit of information that I've been able to gather is a couple things. So one thing, I heard a lot of people saying like, oh, the city's going to disincorporate. Well, that's not the case. What the meeting conveyed was that if we don't come up with a comprehensive plan by December, because he gave us hard deadlines, 2025 is like the time where Chester City's budget reaches insurmountable debt in 2025. So that's a couple years off from now. And the solution to any plan to be able to reverse the path that we're on right now, the experts say that it would take about a year to implement, which backs that 25 up to 2024, right? Which means that we need to have a solution to begin implementing in 2024. And in order for that to happen, that solution got to be complete and solid by 2023's end, right?
Okay.
Right. So the idea behind that is that short of a comprehensive solution, Chester will either have to go through the paperwork process to disincorporate, or will effectively be disincorporated through insolvency that can't be fixed. And this is from the experts, right? The people who were sent here to fix the financial program, and PFM and other people have analyzed this, and this is what they're saying. Now, a couple things is worth saying, right? The one thing is that this is unprecedented, right? Chester being the first city, if it ever got disincorporated, would also be the first city to disincorporate, right? There's no unincorporated municipalities in Pennsylvania right now. So all we could really do to analyze what that would look like is take examples that we have in the rest of the country or whatever. So what I understand that with disincorporation is getting rid of the local charter / government, right? So elected officials will cease to have a role because it would be disincorporated. The charter will cease to exist because it would be disincorporated. Any taxation authority would cease to exist because it would be disincorporated. So Chester City income tax, Chester property tax will cease to exist. Unfortunately, we'll still have to pay county taxes,
of course,
right? We'll still have to pay state taxes. We'll still have to pay federal taxes, right? Who will take care of the roads, right? The PennDOT.
Yeah, PennDOT will take care of those roads,
would likely follow those roads. Who will handle the police department? Because it's unprecedented, all we can say is that other municipalities where their police departments have failed, the state police has stepped in. So we can assume, based on that precedent, that it might be state police. But we also have sheriffs. And in the South, counties that don't have, or all the counties have sheriffs. And if the local city don't have their own police department, then it's the county sheriff that does it. So it could be the county.
So you're saying that the police department has no charter, so they don't have no power no more?
I'm saying that the police department is established by the charter of the city. So if the city goes away, then who are they policing? Right? There is no more. There's no more city jurisdiction, right? So the Chester Police Department inevitably would have to cease to exist, right? Because there's no Chester.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So now who are they policing? They're policing an unincorporated, unterritoried.
Wow.
So they'll have a person that will be appointed by the state to run point on essential operations that will be contracted out. Now, this is not unprecedented, right? There's a lot of municipalities in the South who are not incorporated.
Yeah.
And the South's approach is that we are our own government. We don't need a system of government, right? That just has never happened in Pennsylvania. But I think that if the residents could get their mind around what that would look like, it's very possible that there could be some kind of future in it. I don't believe it's as doomsday as initially it kind of feels, right?
Yeah.
Once you think through it, there are there are areas of geographic land that's not incorporated into a city with a city charter and a city government. That's all government based, right? If you want to go out and pay and fix the road in front of your house, you can do that.
Yeah.
We just depend on government to do it, and they tax us.
Yeah.
Well, if they're no longer taxing us and we have that money then can, in theory, be put towards doing it ourselves, right?
Okay.
We can go cut the grass at our own parks, or we could hire a local business to do it ourselves, right? There's nothing stopping us from doing that, from getting 1,000 residents and saying like, yo, listen, our park needs some maintenance. Let's all get together, 1,000 of us, and put in a pot to pay for the maintenance for the park for the year.
So who leads that charge? Is that your
whoever feels called to do it? It could.
That your ward
What's a block captain? What's a block captain, bro?
I mean, when it's incorporated.
But so that's what whoever it is that the creator puts on your heart to say this is for you to do it. Wow. You lead that charge, and it works, right? Like this. That's not like it's necessarily a problem, because really and truly, right? We've gotten so dependent on government for services that we really could do ourselves that we think that there's no existence outside of that. And that's just not entirely true.
No, you're right. You're right.
We just bought into the system that we're used to.
Yeah. And how leaders are created is that they identify a gap or a need and they step in and try to replace it. Right. So now that if this happens, according to how you say it, then we're going to need people who are going to have to identify the need. Right. And want to step up and organize to do so. Right. Do we have that?
I mean, do we got people that's running right now for public office?
Yeah, we do.
So what's the difference? So now instead of running for public office, you'll be canvassing and campaigning for your public service, right? I'm a canvass and campaign to get this park taken care of. I'm a canvass and campaign to get this block taken care of, right? And we're going to do it ourselves instead of depending on government. Yeah. That's not terrible is all I'm saying. And then let's think about the word, the etymology of the word, right? Okay. Disincorporated. Okay. Incorporation. Yeah. Corporation. For profit.
That's right.
What's the revenue? Taxes. Yeah. Right? How many municipalities right now got millions of dollars sitting on their balance sheet that was collected in tax revenues, extracted from the community, just sitting on the books?
It's a few.
Right? It's enough of them, right? So we could see that government in its own form is also a business.
It's definitely a business. Definitely.
So then the question becomes, are we going to allow the business to run it for us? Okay. Or are we going to just take charge? But that's not going to happen if they come up with a plan, a viable solution.
So what I guess, I know you said this is just happening. So, I mean, even though it's just happening, a strategic plan should have already been in place. And when this does happen, has there been a 5-year strategic plan? Is there a financial, 2-year solvency to this? Like what is the plan of the city? And I'm asking ignorantly because honestly, I don't know.
Understood. So the only thing I would say is, so I'm with you because intuitively you like, why don't we have a plan for this? I'm not one that's often to defend anybody's anything unless I know a lot about it. Okay. Well, in this case, I don't know a lot about it, but I will say this for argument's sake, because to play devil's advocate, right? Okay. This is an unprecedented manner, right? So would you have come up with a backup plan for something that has never existed for you before? I think that it's a natural response to say, like, I didn't expect this to happen.
See, but I don't know if I can go with that one, because Act 47 has been flirting and floating around and been around the city
for sure
for a long time, right?
But there's no instance of Act 47 not being successful.
True, but my thing is,
Chester's unique in that manner.
Very unique. But leadership is you have to be able to plan for failures. Like you can't just say, Well, it never happened. It's kind of like you getting a flat tire and not having a spare. Like we got a fifth tire for a reason. I mean, you have to plan for the inevitable.
Right.
And I think when there's
you said it though. Plan for the inevitable.
Yeah, because it's going to with the city continuously having financial issues, and we're back into it again.
Right.
It's kind of inevitable if we haven't pulled ourselves out of the situation for the second time around, right? Because I think this is the second time we was in Act 47, right? The first time was years ago. Then this time now happened. I'm not quite sure.
Me. But I don't know of us ever coming out of Act 47. How we looking on time? We gotta.
And I know, during my time here, right? I moved out to Delaware County in 2007, out here in Marcus Hook, right? Been in contact with the city of Chester since maybe 2010. It's been the overarching situation of financial stability about the city since my time of 2010.
For sure.
So now, if I'm a leader and I'm running for office, or I achieved, an office here, it's like I need to make sure that there is a backup plan for the inevitable if my plan doesn't happen.
Well, you know what fixes most insolvent financial situations? Bankruptcy.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Bankruptcy is the usual solution. So I want one point of clarity, right? So Act 47 is a warning, if you will, right? Like this, let's call that like a metaphor. That's a metaphor for a warning.
That's right.
The warning is that you're going to be in Act 47, and if you don't get right, then we're going to put you in receivership.
That's right.
Right? Receivership is the backup plan if you fail. Receivership by nature is supposed to be a financial correction, right? I think the problem is unique in the sense that now, like, the receiver is not able to give his version of what's called financial correction because he's being blocked at a lot of different levels.
So Act 47 is like being on academic probation.
Yeah.
And the receiver is like your tutor. You know, like a tutor to get you out
because
of it, you know what I mean?
So
like,
you got to Act 40. I think they had a manager, like an Act 47 case manager, who was like the tutor.
Okay.
The receiver is summer school. You failed the grade now.
Okay.
Right? We wasn't able to rehabilitate you. Now you got to come in and you got to get corrected in a condensed manner.
Providing programs and things in order to get you back on track to get you to the next grade.
But Chester is like, not and Chester as a city metaphorically, not any individually, but it's like we're in summer school and the course is almost over and it's time for the school year to start. And we still haven't gotten the problem fixed.
No, we didn't even crack open the books.
That's why disincorporation is on the table now, right? And that's unprecedented because generally bankruptcy is the solution to a financial insolvency.
I know a lot of folks, a lot of businesses that go through some bankruptcy to get them out of that current predicament and to move them along to get to the next one.
Right, but so as it stands right now, bankruptcy is being appealed.
It's being appealed.
It's being appealed.
So now so let me get this straight.
Right.
So we don't have a backup plan.
Right.
For the inevitable.
Right.
And now the normal vehicle or mechanism to get us out of the water is introduced, but is now saying no.
That's what I heard on the meeting yesterday. 100% correct of what I heard.
All right. So now we don't. All right. So we don't got no life raft.
Right.
And we told the Coast Guard to go away. Right. So now we're floating on this door. Right. What's the plan for the people?
So I don't. I want to believe that this is not going to happen. I want to believe that, but honestly, I don't know. And so I'm not so sure that it's a horrible thing.
I mean, again, we said you got some time to destroy in order to rebuild, right? I get that. You got to get some Legos that kind of messed up. You tear the Legos apart, build it back better. Right. But these are people's lives.
These are right.
And this is
for sure people's lives. And the horrible part about it is on how many jobs are going to be lost as a result of it, right? Possibly even mine, because I don't even know what that looks like on my profession, right?
Wow.
What does it look like for authorities when the municipality goes under, right?
Yeah.
There is no precedent, right? So I don't have any example that I could refer to. So I don't know, right? Who knows? So it's not even like I'm speaking from a position of insulation, right? I think that the sad case is that there's going to be a lot of jobs lost.
I mean, yeah, because if we're not protecting and using the mechanisms to keep us afloat, then municipality jobs that involve the municipality and everything that's an adjacent to it,
right,
is vulnerable now.
Right.
Man. I mean that's pretty heavy, bro. I mean,
it is,
and I don't necessarily have you don't have an answer. I don't have a feedback to it, but this is where we are.
This is where we are, and I do know that if we don't have a government, then that leaves the door open for people to come in. Like whenever there's a vulnerability or a chink in the armor, it's an opportunity to be exploited.
Yeah,
right. So I think that if ever there was a time where we got to get together as a people and start being involved and paying attention and speaking on the issues, I would say that it's probably now.
It is,
right?
man.
I mean, it's been
honest. No, but you're right, because now is really one of these points in time where we are at a pivotal. Like they say that every election, right?
Right.
You know, last election they got me. The last election they got me. Well, this is the most consequential piece of election since, and it was the voter,
and they're right.
Yeah, but it was last time it was vote or die with Diddy and them, right? You
right.
gotta vote. But this one here, bro, it really shows that if we don't pay attention,
right,
and pay attention to what's being served, we gonna be on that menu.
Right. We are, and we had a critical time. And I ain't talking about for politics. I'm talking about for people.
Yeah, I'm talking about people. Right. Yeah. Right. So we gotta be conscious of what's going on around us and not just be so engulfed on, what happened in the celebrity, what's happening in the shade room, what's happening on Instagram, what's happening on
they
social
all
media,
and they gonna be okay.
Dog, that has nothing to do with what you got going on, bro. Like that is just a distraction to keep you blinded.
Right.
And then you're gonna wake up tomorrow or the next day and realize, what the hell is going on? Right. Where was I at during this? Oh, you was right there. Guess what you did? You just scrolled right by it.
Right.
Saying, oh, we shared the page and Malcolm Drew was talking about it, but you just scrolled on by it, bro. And I think
because they ain't had the time to sit through it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, take your time, do your research. Shoot, if you don't want to do your research, let us do your research. That's what we here for, man. We're trying to give you what's happening in plain talk in real time.
Right.
And now that we're deciding to go live, we want to start hitting the topics and answering some of the questions that's on the screen and acknowledging what people talk about. So
it looked like we got some feedback.
Yeah.
No questions though. The screen went out a couple of times. It was frozen.
Yeah.
She said we need to bring back rent parties and creatives. Absolutely. That's gonna be the way we're gonna be able to generate it and move value, right? And I think that's in general, right? Mm-hmm. Like in general, it will behoove of any people to take what they're good at. Mm-hmm. Our people are very creative, and monetize it.
That's right,
in unique, creative ways.
Because we gotta go back to the old adage: the game is to be sold,
not told.
Not told.
Right. That's what the old heads used to say.
You know what I mean? So we gotta start.
So how much we gonna charge for this then?
I don't know, man. we gonna charge a like and a share. How about that? If y'all in there,
pay your fee for this free game.
Tierra, Lisa, Tanita, share, like it,
Yep, I agree.
Well, I guess we good on time today, man, and this is a good one. We got some more topics that we got to talk about. But we're gonna come back and discuss that in a later time, man.
In 2 weeks, right? Since we're doing live, we're gonna be in here every other week.
2 weeks, we're gonna be back. 2 weeks, we're gonna look for us. In 2 weeks, we're gonna come hit you with something, man. So my name is Malcolm Yates.
My name is Andrew Nelson.
And man, this is The Narrative.
This is my heritage, all I'm inheriting. Money